All right, folks, it's January 27th, 2004. I'm Alex Jones, your host. We have about 53 and a half minutes left in this live show. Now, I just aired excerpts from a PBS documentary, America Rebuilds. PBS documentary. And it's about September 11th and now the rebuilding of the complex. Now, what you just saw is one of the biggest stories of our lifetime, hidden in plain view. Hidden in plain view. Everything today is hidden in plain view. You just watched the video. We're going to re-air it. Those are just clips out of the film. The clips are also at Infowars.com. What did you just see? You just saw the owner of WTC7 and the entire complex, Larry Silverstein, saying that they decided to engage in the controlled demolition, destruction of Building 7 on the afternoon of September 11th, 2001. Why is that so important? Because the FEMA report and the government says that fire caused Building 7 to collapse. The 47-story building, the third largest building in the complex of 7 buildings. Now, we know they blew up Tower 1 and 2. We know they had shape charges. From the seismographs, the police reports, the firefighter reports, we know Building 7. We know they blew that up. I've been saying that for 28 months since it happened. We knew that was hidden in plain view. But the government said, no explosives in any of the buildings. They collapsed on their own from fire. And now in plain view, in a PBS documentary, America Rebuilds, Larry Silverstein, the owner, says that on 9/11 the building's burning and they decide to pull it so that the fire doesn't spread. They give the order to pull it and they watch it come down. Pull it is the industry term for a controlled demolition of a building. In fact, we have clips from the same documentary. It's all about the destruction and the rebuilding. We have clips off the same PBS documentary where they admit to blowing up buildings 4, 5, and 6 and then pulling down the rest of the wreckage in mid-December, 2.5 months later. Remember, those are the buildings that didn't fall. And so they got rid of them to rebuild the entire area. Remember that? But the 2 towers fell. Building 7 wasn't hurt. And then hours after the towers fall, it catches on fire. And then it collapses at 4:35 p.m. Eastern Time. Building 7 collapses. Dan Rather sees it live and says, looks like dynamite, looks like controlled demolition. Peter Jennings as a reporter going, yeah, it was a controlled demolition. The firefighters, and we have these articles and transmission tapes and AP reporters said, we were told to get back from Building 7. They were about to implode it. They were about to pull it. I remember the day of the event that happened. I got on air and said they blew up Building 7. No. Forget what you heard. The official story is it fell on its own. A modern steel building has never collapsed from fire damage. They've had Chicago hotels, New York hotels that have burned for 3 days. 50-story buildings, towering infernos, they don't collapse. Doesn't happen. It takes a blowtorch to melt steel. But 2 jets hit Tower 1 and 2. The firefighters go up in the tower, report that the fires are almost out, send up more teams, we're going to put it out. That's why firefighters ran in. That's why they ran into the building. They knew they could put it out. Then they report bombs going off and they collapse. People said, oh no, jet fuel did that. So we said, okay, jet fuel did it. Building 7 collapses 8+ hours later, has 2 small fires in it. It collapses with classic controlled demolition. They only do that if every girder is blown out by plastic explosives. The seismographs pick up multiple explosions. We go on air and say this was controlled demolition from the eyewitnesses, the seismographs, the police, the firefighters. I put it in 2 films and a book. I made 2 films and wrote a book about this. And now we learned that this has been out in plain view for a year. Larry Silverstein in America Rebuilds from PBS, and he just calmly says, we blew it up. So we're going to air these clips. We'll air them again at the very end of the show because I got other important news I need to get to. We're going to air these clips, and Mike, you ready to stop it? Because I want to go through each point. This is just some of the stuff I grabbed off the video. I want to go through this and stop it point by point. Now, the first thing is we have one of the local city engineers going, yeah, that morning I got up and the buildings were on fire, and I thought we just need to go, in there and fix the problems of the buildings. I had no idea they'd collapse. Well, again, engineers know that no steel modern building has ever collapsed from fire. So he sees Tower 1 and 2 burning. He says, I went down there to try to fix it, and it collapsed. Well, yeah, I mean, I have an engineer friend, Jimmy Wright, who worked in the World Financial Center. He has a ranch out in Fredericksburg. Kevin Booth's brother-in-law. Been out at his house many times at the ranch. And I called him that morning because I knew he worked in the World Financial Center. He said, I'm an engineer. It's the most controlled demolition I've ever seen in my life. And that's on the website. Everybody said that. The designers of the buildings went, somebody blew that up. Those buildings were designed. Suddenly they shut up. Professors all over the country of architecture and engineering said, that's impossible. Suddenly they shut up. Next time I talked to Jimmy, he said, I'm not going to talk about it. I can't talk about it. Firefighter Engineering, the oldest firefighting publication in the country, oldest firefighting organization, 160 years old, says that it's impossible for that to happen to 1 or 2 or Building 7 that wasn't hit by an airplane, and that Controlled Demolition Incorporated, who, by the way, covered up Oklahoma City, did that demolition, was criminally with the government hauling the material away to China for smelting and not allowing any investigators in. Did you know that? But understand, Building 7 wasn't hit by an aircraft, but it collapsed. So the first clip is an engineer going, yeah, I went down there to help that morning, didn't think it collapsed, never thought it would, but it did, Building 1 and 2, North and South Towers. Then we cut to a clip from the video where they talk about mid-December, where they did the admitted controlled takedown of buildings 4, 5, and 6. 4, 5, and 6. Those buildings weren't knocked down either. Admittedly, months after the fires are out, in mid-December, they blew up the rest of the buildings. And they call it pulling it. You'll hear them go, yeah, we're about to demolish, we're about to take down the building, we're going to pull it. That's the industry term for a demolition, is pulling a building. Because some people will watch Silverstein go, yeah, the building was on fire on 9/11 and we didn't want to have any more loss of life, so we made the decision to pull it. And so they demolish the building. By the way, a Secret Service agent did die in the building, according to the Congress. We have that in the article. So someone did die in Building 7. But we play the first clip so you understand that pulling it means demolishing. Then we play the clip of Silverstein talking about 9/11 where they pulled Building 7. Building 7 fell on September 11th at 4:35 Eastern. In mid-December, they destroyed 4, 5, and 6. And we play that clip because they describe the demolition as pulling the buildings. So here it is. Here it is, my friends, hidden in plain view. Now, FEMA has said the building fell because of fire. Never happened before. Happened to 3 buildings in one day. But here's the owner saying it was controlled demolition. And understand, how did they get explosives in a building when it takes days or weeks to do it if they decided to destroy it on 9/11? You can't do that. Even if they had hours to do it, the building was on fire on the 7th and 12th floors. We have photos and video clips, all that on the website. But here it is, folks. Go ahead and roll it.